Welcome to another episode of OG55. I got Mr. Seymour Duck and Jared from Capture the Magic in the house today. We're talking about that Disney earnings call. We're talking about the numbers. We're going to talk about how the company's doing. We're going to talk about ESPN, Hulu, all that good stuff. Stacked panel today. Up next on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. Today, we're talking about the earnings call. It was a pretty interesting call today. We got some news out of it as well. We're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. Before we do, I want to introduce Mr. Seymour Duck. How you doing, Mr. Duck?
Much better. I've been sick for a few days, but now I'm feeling much better.
Good to hear. Always good to have you back, sir. If you could remind everybody where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck.
There he is. Follow this man on X. And Jared from Capture the Magic. It's always a pleasure having you on the show, brother. How you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having me back on. It's always fun to. I've been diving into earnings call numbers lately, and it's not exciting, but in many ways, it has a lot of, you get a lot of information. So I have way too many numbers in my head right now.
Absolutely. And where can everybody find you on social media?
I'm at Cap the Magic everywhere, including YouTube, and that's where you can find me on all the platforms. It can be very simple.
There he is on all platforms. All right, let's rock and roll. Let's dive right in. We have Disney earnings top expectations as streaming parks offset TV headwinds. It says here a couple bullet points. Disney reported an increase in quarterly adjusted earnings per share, but slightly missed on revenue. The company's streaming business continued to grow during the quarter, which is kind of surprising to me, but we'll talk about that. With operating income of the segment reaching $346 million compared with a loss in the same period last year, and an addition of 1.8 million Disney Plus subscribers. Revenue and operating income for the parks and experience business grew during the quarter as there was an increase in guest spending at the theme parks. Okay, so Mr. Seymour Duck, let's start off with the first bullet point here. It says Disney reported an increase in quarterly adjusted earnings per share, but slightly missed on revenue. What's your take on that?
When I look at the numbers, I can see why they missed on revenue. It's because of linear networks. It's going down. Even if we look at Comcast earnings, it's also going down. Warner Brothers is spinning off their networks. Comcast is spinning off. Disney is the only one that says we're not going to spin off. We're going to keep the networks. And when we deep dive in the numbers, you'll see that it's primarily the linear networks. And also, there was some movies in there as well that didn't do as well as last year. But last year we had Inside Out 2, and then we had Deadpool and Wolverine. So it's like we had $2 billion, two $1 billion hits, right? And it's like, well, we can't compete with that with this year, right?
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Well, what's your thoughts? Oh, go ahead.
There's a lot of nuance and context in that, but yeah, primarily though, it's the linear networks. It's dying. It's when you look at the numbers.
Yeah, it's a melting ice cube, as they say, basically, right? Mr. Jared, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree with Seymour. I think they said they had revenue when it came to linear was like 15% fell off, and then they had operating income dropped 28%. So pretty significant drops on linear, which is interesting because that's basically been happening for like a decade. And I think that's why, I mean, you've seen obviously Disney focusing more on streaming, but as well as that NFL deal that they struck, I think was a lot to do with that, because one of the bright spots of linear TV to this day is still live sports. Right. And I think that's why they're really doubling down into trying to do more live sports. And I think you'll probably see do more of that. It'll be interesting with the NBA if they follow a very similar path with that with some of these other sports leagues. But yeah, linear TV is definitely dragging it down quite a bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well said. It says here the company's streaming business continued to grow during the quarter, with operating income for the segment reaching $346 million compared with a loss in the same period last year, with an addition of 1.8 million Disney Plus subscribers. Seymour, I want to ask you, this is actually kind of surprising to me. what happened this quarter to get the, because I feel like there hasn't really been anything new on Disney Plus for a little while. Is it the movies that like the movies that were in theaters? People are watching them on the platform, because I feel like show wise there hasn't really been a whole lot. Maybe I'm missing something though. What are your thoughts on the gains here?
It's just the cost for, at least for the operating income. They've been trying to cost save, right? They've been trying to, as they announced today, that they're gonna fully integrate Hulu into Disney Plus and remove the Hulu app entirely. They're looking at removing Star India, right? Now that's with the Reliance industry. They're looking at a lot of things to save costs. So that's why you're seeing income actually going up, because they've reduced costs, and they've been looking for quality against quantity, and they're looking to actually cut a lot of the big budget projects they did for Disney Plus and make it for movie theaters. So you saw Moana 2, where that was supposed to be for streaming, but instead released for the movies. You saw Lilo and Stitch, that was supposed to be for streaming, but instead that was released for the movie theater. So they're doing a lot of things where it makes sense budget-wise, where why are we wasting money on streaming when we can make it off of movie theaters? And why are we making so much big budget projects and get little in return when general entertainment, the Hulu side, will generate more revenue for the cost that it brings in from the subscribers? So I see that's what's happening here. You can get a lot of high quality content from Hulu at a fraction of the cost compared to like a Marvel series or Star Wars. And I think like during COVID they exploded with too much content that the quality just got messy. JPEG, yeah, not one of the finest moments, but you can see now the quality is getting back there, and that's what I see here. But funny enough, 1.8 million subscribers. I've been speaking to friends who are like heavy in Netflix, and they're like, this is modest growth. This is nothing to look at as greatness. And it's like, yeah, I don't think Disney's focusing on growth right now. They have already done that. They exceeded growth. They're looking at expanding margins or profitability. So you're seeing a lot of things like I mentioned just before, Hulu merging into Disney Plus. That's a big thing because that's going to bring down costs significantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jared, just one more thing, especially internationally. So they do a lot of marketing right now for international markets where it's Star instead of Hulu. And now they can just brand it as Hulu because they announced today as well that Star is going to get rebranded as Hulu in like Canada and all the international markets. I don't know why they went with Star because of India, but still, like nobody. Do you even know what Star is?
No, yeah,
I don't know who Hulu is, right?
Right, so, I know they should have gone with the Hulu branding. It's kind of weird to me.
Yeah, but there's some logistics issues there with Comcast not owning it. Now they own the rights to all of Hulu. They bought it from Comcast for that like low price, and because of that, they're now going to rebrand All Star to Hulu. And because of that synergy, they can now market for one market for Hulu instead of having two separate identities, having two separate costs. And there's a lot of issues where international markets would get some of the shows late. Now they can do it at the same time, and people won't get confused. It'll be like Hulu, it's on Hulu, and then you see Hulu on Disney Plus in the US, in Canada, in Australia. It's all there. So I think that's going to help as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Jared, what are your thoughts on that? The streaming subscriber growth and whatnot.
Is it now? I could be wrong on this. I think now they're counting Hulu in. And that maybe make up a lot of that discrepancy because Hulu, I mean, is a very successful streamer. It's been established almost as long as Netflix. So I think that could account for a lot of just now they're including Hulu into those numbers because they don't break down what's Hulu and what's Disney Plus. They've kind of just merged it. Now they're completely merging it all together.
Yes, they combine them, and plus it's really hard when you have international markets using the same Hulu shows, but there's no Hulu service and it's Disney Plus, so they share a lot of the same costs, so it's just easier to put it all together instead of breaking it down.
Yeah, and I think that's why you see that's quite that difference there. And what's interesting, the market didn't react very well to this earnings report, and one of them was I think they had predicted that the subscriber count was going to be like 2 million plus, and it didn't quite hit that number. But Disney actually said on this call that they were no longer going to report subscriber numbers. They said they were just going to report profits and revenue and not anything to do with like subscriber counts on the Disney Plus side, which I found was kind of interesting.
That is interesting. They're kind of taking a playbook from the Parks division, right? Because like
Yep.
as Parks fans, we know they don't report on attendance numbers, and they haven't in forever.
Yep.
And the only numbers that we actually get are third party kind of guesstimates, I guess, right?
It's a T report for the most part is what's kind of the standard, industry wide there.
Yeah, exactly. So they're kind of doing that whole thing, which is kind of interesting. And I Seymour, correct me if I'm wrong, but Netflix they've been doing that for a while now too, right? They don't report their numbers anymore.
They just started doing that. They don't report the numbers anymore, subscribers. But I think they are if it's really good subscriber growth.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they get a bunch in a quarter, they're all going to talk about it. But they want to basically be able to say, let's look at the profits and losses versus, if Disney had 25 million new subscribers, they would have talked about it for sure. And they probably
100%.
will in the future.
But like I said, it makes sense because Disney's not focused on growth anymore. They exceeded growth. They're looking to expand their margins to gain profitability. And I think with the new ESPN service, they're going to do that. And I think that's going to push in a lot of the revenue and profits coming in for that.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that ESPN deal. I have some questions for you guys. I'm not really, admittedly, I'm not like a big sports guy, but I have questions about that, about monopoly issues and what have you. And I honestly don't really know my football at all, so I could be completely wrong in that kind of early assumption. So I kind of want to pick your brains on that in a minute.
And one more thing, though, because you mentioned about the stock price going down. For me, I feel like the stock price went down because there was a sharp decline in linear networks, and streaming is not growing as fast in profitability to cover that loss.
Oh, okay.
They also did cite, some investors also cited, they had I'm sure we'll talk about the revenue, the parks revenue went up, but they also cited, since the attendance was flat, some concerns about competition. I think they didn't say it, but I think they're referring to like Universal and what that could look like in the forecast. I think there were some investors that kind of pointed to questions around that. So I think they were hoping with this new NFL deal that was really going to, Bob Iger kind of did what he likes to do, is have these deals come out around earnings calls and kind of bolster that up. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't down much. I think like 2% is what it was down. So it wasn't like it took a major dip or anything.
No, I've seen it go down 20% when after Bob Chapek did his last earnings call.
The stock price.
Well,
the stock price
is weird too. Yeah. I used to do a little trading, like not like day trading or anything like that, but investors, like you will see some companies have really strong reports and the stock will go down. And sometimes, sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, this one was kind of interesting how the market sort of reacted to it. Even pre-market trading, after they released the report this morning, you weren't seeing too much movement positively for it.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. Well, it says here, speaking of parks, revenue and operating income for the parks and experiences division grew during the quarter as there was an increase in guest spending at the park. So like you were saying, Jared, we got some increased spending, what have you, but I guess the attendance took a little bit of a hit, which isn't too, this was, how much of the quarter was Epic Universe? Because Epic Universe opened at the end of May.
So this has been 1 month of Epic and both for quarters that would show up for Comcast and for whatever impact I have on Disney. It was basically for May. So that was like April. What was it? Yeah. Yeah. So it would have been May what this counted for. And then next month, the next earnings will be June, July, and August, I believe. So next earnings we'll get a little bit more of an accurate picture because Universal was kind of doing their media previews. They were soft opens. They were really capping the attendance at in that April, May sort of time. Yep. So the next one we'll get a kind of a better picture. Now, if Disney can go ahead, Seymour. Go ahead.
I feel like if we would have seen it, we would have seen a decrease at before Epic Universe was launched. I think you would have seen a decrease in Disney parks to save up for that.
That's a fair point.
I didn't see a decrease in domestic parks. I actually see revenue up 10%, and then I see operating income up 22%. So, like, I don't see them. It didn't go down. And I mentioned before in the last time we discussed this, I actually think Epic Universe is actually just going to help Disney. I don't think it's actually going to bring down Disney. It's going to bring more people to Florida and people are going to have best of both worlds, and it's not just going to be Epic Universe who's winning, it's also going to be Disney.
Well, that's a fair point. I think DeMauro has mentioned that too, where it's kind of like Disneyland and California Adventure. It's like California Adventure wouldn't have, the attendance that it has if it didn't sit close to Disneyland. But to be fair, in Florida, I mean, Universal probably wouldn't have the attendance it has if Disney World wasn't there. And I think they both benefit from each other. I think that's a good point, Seymour. I'm kind of curious how that kind of tracks going forward. Another thing too, as you mentioned, maybe we would have seen a dip going into it. That's also a good point. It's because I think Florida is much more of a it's obviously much more of a tourist market where people plan way ahead. Out here in California, it's a locals park, so
they had a big spring break, and I think that definitely helped bolster. And like Easter weekend, they did mention those were pretty strong weekends. Though going forward, I think it will be interesting because we've had multiple reports this summer that attendance at the Disney park, or at least Disney World, I don't know about Disneyland, even touring plans had said that it was the lowest attendance since like 2022 that they had seen. Wow. And what's interesting is just today, Orange County came out with their June tax collection numbers, and they had the highest ever tax collection. And they basically said, it was on WFTV, they said that the county collected nearly $34 million in tourist development taxes last month. And the officials said it was thanks in part to Epic Universe, which is a 10% increase over last year. So the local government, I mean, that kind of gives you an idea of more than likely Universal is going to continue to see a higher revenue come in if they're seeing it from the taxes, and they're crediting Epic Universe. I think the big question is, what is Disney's going to look like for this summer? Because this summer has looked, at least from the outside looking in, everything we can see, it has looked a bit slower than it has in the last few years.
Yeah. We'll see how the next quarter shakes out. I think it's in. Is it September, Seymour? The next one that they report on? I think it's like September, right? Like maybe.
Yeah, I don't think they've announced a date yet, but it's around 3 months from now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it says here to dip a little bit further into the park stuff. It says revenue for Disney's experience segment, which includes theme parks, resorts, cruises, as well as consumer products, increased 8% to $9.9 billion. Domestic theme parks revenue was up 10% to $6.4 billion. In particular, as there was an increase in spending at theme parks and higher volumes in passenger cruise days and resort stays. Johnston, the CFO, said here on Squawk Box on Wednesday that Disney World had its biggest third quarter ever, adding that traffic at Orlando, Florida park was solid. That's interesting. That is kind of interesting. We'll just kind of see, we'll kind of see how these numbers shake out the next quarter. And I'm very curious. International parks and experiences revenue was up 6% to about $1.7 billion. In May, Disney announced it reached a deal to bring a theme park and resort to Abu Dhabi. The expansion into the UAE is not part of the earlier Disney pledge to spend $60 billion on theme parks over the next decade. Yeah, mostly because I think that Merrill, I think it's called Merrill Group or something. They're fitting the bill for that Abu Dhabi park.
Oh, so. Disney's only making money from that deal. They're not spending any money, really.
Nothing. And I'm telling you, that park is going to be like, it's going to have all the bells and whistles because,
that would be interesting. I could see that becoming, they kind of use Paris many times as a testing ground for a lot of stuff in the parks. I think you may see Abu Dhabi become the park where they really test things like technology wise, and then maybe bring those over into the domestic parks after they kind of test run them over there, maybe.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Seymour? I haven't really talked to you about Abu Dhabi. What are your thoughts on that whole expansion into that part of the world?
Business-wise, easy money for Disney.
Yeah.
Licensing is very easy to make money. And, Disney's like, it's been there. They've been doing that for a while now. And now in Japan too, right? They have partnerships there when they make their parks. That brings down the cost. Right. And it's a win-win because there's a lot of red tape in that area, and Disney doesn't have to get involved in that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Things could get very political too. Disney doesn't have to do any of that. They just have to license. You do all the work, and they will get all the blame.
There you go. Yeah, that's not a shabby deal. It's not a shabby deal. It goes on to continue with the streaming stuff. It says revenue for direct to consumer streaming business rose 6% to 6.18 billion. The entertainment segment as a whole was weighed down by the traditional TV business, that linear that we were all talking about, which saw revenue dip 15% to 2.27 billion. And the DTC, direct to consumer streaming business, was lifted, however, by the company's flagship service, Disney Plus, which added 1.8 million subscribers, bringing a total nearly 128 million. Total Hulu subscribers grew 1% to 55.5 million. Now, speaking of Hulu, let's dip into the big Hulu news. Something that we've heard about for a long time, but is finally happening now. This is courtesy of Variety. Hulu app to be phased out as Disney is fully integrating service into Disney Plus. It reminds me of the Death Star, fully operational,
Well, I mean, we knew they were going to do this. Like I think there were rumbling. I don't know if they ever officially said they were going to do this, but there were rumblings for years that once they got Hulu completely, like it was essentially going to phase it out and just become part of Disney Plus. So I'm not surprised to see it at all.
No, me neither. And, as someone who I kind of like this. I like this because as an adult, I like to have like all of it in one spot. Like for me, I can go to Disney Plus and I can watch, the Imagineering stuff or like Moana or whatever. And it's just easier if I can then toggle over to the Hulu tile and just watch some grown up stuff too. I like that it's all in one spot basically.
Yeah.
Now, Disney has to make sure that these parental controls and all that, which they've been good so far, I think, with that. Just make sure that's all in order so parents can kind of customize for their kiddos. But
if I'm not
other than that, go ahead.
mistaken, when you sign up, they prompt you right away to put those controls. So there's no way if you disregard it, that is you disregarding it. The parents like, why didn't I put parental controls? No, they did. You just disregarded it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that also stems from. I mean, you're right. They do that. I think where a lot of there's been a couple of times you've seen some people complaining about something that was shown that they didn't want to be shown. I think a lot of it just comes into Disney known as a family brand. And then you add it, and the Hulu has some family shows, but Hulu also has some very like intense drama shows, like very adult oriented stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's where it comes into, because I think some people just see Disney and they think, oh, it'll be perfectly fine for everybody. And then they didn't set it all up. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense for them to do it. I'm very curious. I'm assuming they're going to drop. I mean, it's just going to become part of Disney Plus. So you're not going to have a separate subscription like you do right now for Hulu and for Disney Plus. So I suppose from the consumer side, that would be potential cost savings unless they bump up Disney Plus to make up the difference.
Yeah, and it's also kind of been interesting too. Like Disney's been kind of walking this tightrope when it comes to like more mature entertainment. I think since like Michael Eisner took over, right? Michael Eisner came in and Touchstone Pictures and Hollywood Pictures, and then we got things like even Miramax. I forgot they even owned Miramax for a while, right? And so they've been trying to dabble into this more adult stuff to sort of diversify, which is a good idea. But it's like that balancing act for Disney where it's like separate but still owned by them, where they're trying to keep it where it's like, yeah, we want to make that money. At the same time, though, we don't want to make it at the sacrifice of our brand, our legendary brand. So it's a balancing act. What was kind of funny, though, speaking of the Eisner era, though, which I always found kind of funny, is like he put Roger Rabbit, which is a pretty risque movie, especially back then, as a Touchstone movie, right? So implying like, okay, this isn't like for everybody kind of thing. And then he throws them into the parks like crazy. Like Roger was everywhere in the 90s,
Yeah. And everyone got mad because Jessica Rabbit, and everyone was, I think that's what was the real, they didn't know what they would react to that. But I think it's interesting because, if you put it under Miramax, I mean, it does I think people knew it was a Disney thing, but at least it was under a different thing where it's like you could have that separation of the brand. Whereas I think Disney, as time has gone on, they just sort of have melded under Disney. And I mean, we've talked about before in other live streams too about like what is that long-term effect on the brand of not just being, as they're known as a family brand. Like how does that shift as time goes on? Do they become much more of an adult lifestyle brand? Like you could see them kind of shifting demographics as they're kind of trying to. I think in many ways Disney doesn't want to be pigeonholed into a family brand. I don't know if they'll ever be able to get away from that, but I think they definitely are trying to become much more of a just seen as a general entertainment company in many ways.
Yeah, and Seymour, you've talked about that a lot, haven't you, in the past about them kind of Disney kind of evolving in that direction?
Especially with sports now too, right? It feels like entertainment for all, and not just for like the family brand, right? Shows just for kids. It's everyone now. Anyone in the household can watch now. And even for me, if I didn't have the Hulu content, I wouldn't have subscribed to Disney Plus. I don't watch a lot of the Disney centric content. It's all the Hulu. In fact, when I was sick, I binge watched King of the Hill, the new season, and
nice.
I thought that was hilarious. And it felt true to the older seasons, and I thought it was good. Disney did a great job on it. Other people were giving great reviews, but that's the reason why I subscribe to Disney Plus, at least in Canada, because we don't have a separate service. It's still Star, as this article stated. It's getting rebranded to Hulu finally. But yeah, I without that general entertainment, I would not keep Disney Plus. I probably would just keep Netflix, and that's it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's the reason why I watch. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. One of the other shows I watched, the latest season, I binge watched that too. I was talking to Slimer about it. It's hilarious, the latest season. And again, I didn't have that. I'm not gonna watch Disney Plus.
I love It's Always Sunny. I've been watching that since from when it first started, which is so funny now that that's technically a Disney show. That show is so insane that it's actually
it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's wild because we were talking about how Disney is now becoming more mature with adult content, and there's a crossover with Abbott Elementary where it's more family centric on ABC, and then they do a crossover on FX for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and they can swear, they can be more raunchy with the content, even though it's the same cast from Abbott Elementary, right? I find it ironic, but yeah. Hulu, I think content is king for me.
Well, I think too, Disney Plus, if you look at the amount of content they put out, it's not that much. And you kind of mentioned this, OG, about you look at Netflix, how much content they constantly put out. And I think that's where they got duped under Chapek to just putting out more content to try to keep up with, say, Netflix. But Hulu already has, some established shows. So them tying that into Disney kind of helps them. You already have an established thing to do that. And then it gives them just continual content because, if you look at Andor, that was received very well. But I think those 2 seasons cost $600 million or something, some insane price tag that it's probably not going to make its money back on Disney Plus. And I think some of the spending has been the issue on Disney Plus. So Hulu coming in with kind of established studio and they already got these shows going is probably one reason they're putting it in there, just to help with the amount of content they can just put under the Disney Plus banner.
It's interesting too with Netflix, when they have a hit, it's like a pop culture shift. This K-pop Demon Hunter thing is unbelievably
my wife and daughter are our whole house is into that show. Yeah, it's massive.
It's massive. I read that it's the most watched animated movie ever on that platform. Which when you really think about that, with all the Disney and all that, because Disney stuff used to be on there, animation, and all that, with all the heavy hitters that they have on that platform, this one has outdone them all. That's crazy to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right. When something hits on Netflix, it hits. Squid Games. Even what was it, Suits, when they reran that on Netflix, that got hot and popular and became one of the most watched shows out of anything, and they were just reruns from an old USA show. So I think Netflix definitely has much more of a pipeline to sort of what is pop culture now, in many ways. Of if something gets hot on there, it gets real big. And I think that Netflix, if you really look at the streaming stuff, really the winner in the streaming wars is YouTube, if you look at the numbers. But if you look at the ones that you pay, premium ones, Netflix is top of that mountain for sure. And I think everybody else is just trying to figure out what Netflix does and emulate it on their own. And it's kind of, mixed results, I guess you could say, for the other streamers.
Yeah, it's crazy. Have you seen that, Seymour? K-pop Demons?
Still have not seen that. No.
Okay, I haven't either, but I'm curious.
It's got some catchy songs, I will say. And the
All right.
animation's very into the Spider-Verse. It's kind of that stop motion animation style. It's kind of cool.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
So yeah, I just want to just mention a couple of things before we move
Sure.
on. With at least with the Hulu side, it actually helps a lot with churn. So with cancellations, it actually helps consumers not cancel because you're now, like Jared mentioned, you get that back catalog of all the new series that's already been made, and also the new ones are going to be made. The IPs already. You have Aliens, you have Avatar, right? It's all on now because they bought Fox, right? And then you go in Nielsen charts and you see Family Guy, Bob's Burger. When they before when they were emerging, they never hit the Nielsen charts. But then once they got onto Disney Plus, the people just started watching more and more. So that merger of having that general entertainment content on Disney Plus is working, and it's actually getting more viewership. And I believe not this quarter, but last quarter they were mentioning like over 50% of Disney Plus subscribers are on ads. So if you're getting people watching Family Guy and Bob's Burger and they're on ads, they're generating a lot of revenue for the company.
Yeah, Family Guy is one of those shows. It's kind of like The Simpsons. It's like that evergreen kind of stuff. Like I could sit and watch like 6 of those in a row and not even blink.
Yeah.
Like they're so easy, right?
And I think it was reported as well. Most of the advertising revenue that Disney makes comes from the Hulu side. You like the advertisers are actively wanting to advertise more on Hulu, which is interesting because they melded into Disney Plus. Does that change from the are the advertisers going to be able to choose what they want to put it on? Because it seems like, I forget where I read it, but they weren't nearly as interested in as much of the advertising on the Disney Plus shows as they were Hulu. And I think because Hulu is much more closer to kind of linear television in many ways. But that part's kind of interesting. But I do wonder if it's ever going to make sense that they paid 70 some odd billion dollars for Fox. Like, is it going to make sense in 20, 30 years? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it ever going to actually make them money off of buying that much stuff over the years?
I think my theory on that is I think that's why we're seeing more Avatar lands.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Because it kind of justifies the purchase, even just a little bit, because you're like, okay, now we're incorporating the Fox IP into our theme parks. And DCA isn't going to be the only one that they do. I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if Abu Dhabi gets an Avatar land or something, or, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they're going to really branch this franchise out, especially since it's kind of like a Star Wars situation where we're going to have sequels forever. You know,
and that franchise is so weird. Like I've seen the first one. They make so much money, but they have no cultural impact. It's a very strange thing. But the Pandora land in Animal Kingdom is fantastic. I'm actually surprised they haven't done anything else, like added expansions to that land, especially since they bought Fox, and especially since they're doing that in DCA. I've kind of been surprised they haven't, especially with all the movies that James Cameron says he's going to make, which can be like 25 of them, and his AI intelligence uploaded into it is going to end up directing them somehow in the future. But yeah, it's a very strange franchise, but it makes a ton of money that I'm sure this next one coming out will also do very well.
You're right, though, Jared. It doesn't have the cultural impact like a Star Wars or Marvel or DC has, right?
I couldn't name you a single character. Like I've seen them, and I know, but I'm like, I don't know. I vaguely remember what the first one was about, but it's like, yeah, nothing really sticks, but they just make a ton of money.
Yeah, then they hit the theater and they make like $2 billion plus. Yeah, like each movie, right?
Yeah. The last one, I thought maybe the first one was a little bit of an anomaly, and then that second one came out and still made I think it made $2 billion.
Oh yeah,
it's like, okay, well, I mean, they're okay. Like I remember seeing the first one. My wife and I were dating at the time, and I was like, it was okay. Like I didn't understand why it made so much money, but they are visually very pretty. I mean, that may be part of it as well.
Yeah, I actually really liked I would agree with you. The first one was okay. I actually really liked Way of Water. I love the father-son dynamic, that father-son situation they had going on in the second one. I actually really, really enjoyed Way of Water. Okay. But the first one I was like, oh, okay, it's cool looking. Right. But I wasn't like super impressed. But I like the storytelling on the second one though. I thought that was pretty cool.
I mean, I've heard good things about it. I haven't gotten around to seeing it, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, check it out. And here's the thing too. You mentioned the advertisers. It says here that actually, according to a Disney rep, customers will be able to buy a standalone Hulu subscription as well as the integrated version. So I wonder, in terms of the advertisers, they get to choose? Like we want our ads on the Hulu a la carte Or
I bet you they're doing that for the advertisers, if I were to guess. I mean, maybe also for the subscribers, but if you do have major advertising money coming in for Hulu, they're not going to want to risk losing that. So that could be partially why they're sort of having that option there. And that way the advertisers would still be able to just have the Hulu side because it would be separated on some level.
Right. Well, because you also got to think too. Well, I guess with parental controls, it wouldn't matter. But I would imagine because it's Disney, maybe the ads are a little bit more limited for like a family audience if it's on the Disney Plus integrated version as compared to the. Yeah, so that might be a little limiting for advertisers. Seymour, what are your thoughts on that, though? In terms of advertisers go, how does that work? I mean, how do you think that's going to work out?
From what I remember, they have a robust system, and they've been touting many times they're using AI implemented to the streaming service to ensure that the ads are going to the right people, and when you're watching the show, it's curated for that person. And also, I think certain age, I think like if I'm not mistaken, if kids under 10 or younger, they don't get ads at all. So if you get the kids section only, I could be wrong, but from what I remember,
kids profiles don't have ads.
Yeah, they don't have ads either.
Yeah.
Okay.
So even though those were all the money's coming from Bluey, they don't get any ads.
Okay.
Which definitely hurts them because they want to run ads on that.
Oh, for sure. Bluey's up. He could run for president and win. I'm telling you.
That's the number one show on Disney Plus is Bluey. And the fact that they don't run ads on it, I'm sure it's yeah. Well, and you're right. I mean, they want to push everybody. It's kind of like cable. When cable first started, it didn't have ads. And then as time went on, they realized to be profitable, you're going to have to run ads. So you're just going to see them price these tiers where if you don't want ads, you're going to be paying way out the nose for it. So they're going to price it to where you'd be like, okay, well, just give me the ad tier because that's where they're going to make more money.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we got
one more thing. I just want
to
say it's only $1 to get Disney Plus and Hulu instead of just Hulu right now. So I just spend that extra $1 and you get both services combined. It's only $1. That's how they get you. Like, it's only $1, so subscribe to both.
Is that in Canada and the US or just I didn't know?
The US. Canada doesn't. There's no bundled version. Everything's just all in one price.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. Well, we got sports. I'm going to actually pass this off to you guys because I'm not a big sports guy, to be honest with you. I couldn't tell you who played the last Super Bowl. I couldn't tell you anything about any of this stuff.
I used to be really heavy into sports, not as much now, but I do understand a lot of the sports stuff. So I can't help out on this conversation. So.
Perfect. Well, ESPN to acquire NFL Network and landmark agreement. The deal gives the NFL a 10% equity stake in ESPN. It says here, ESPN, a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company. Isn't everything a subsidiary of Disney at this point? And now announced on Tuesday that it will officially acquire the National Football League, the NFL Network, in a landmark deal. The deal, which gives the NFL a 10% equity stake in ESPN, includes the NFL's linear Red Zone channel and NFL Fantasy. The agreement between the sports media giant and the NFL aims to, quote, set a new standard for how professional football is delivered, experienced, and celebrated by fans, end quote, the company said in a press release about the deal. I'll start with you, Jared. What are your thoughts on this? And I mentioned at the top of the show, too, some monopoly concerns with Disney kind of having like a stake in the NFL itself. I mean, I don't know. Is that a concern for sports fans, or is it not really a thing? Am I tripping?
This is kind of an unprecedented deal that a major sports organization is actually having an equity stake in essentially another network. ESPN's also getting a Super Bowl out of this, which is never has happened because typically Super Bowls are always on just ABC, NBC, CBS. I'm very curious what the other networks think about this that have licensing deals with to show the games for the NFL, because you got to think too, you would assume that the NFL is going to want to point people to ESPN now because they have a stake in it. So it makes sense for Disney. I do wonder on some level if they also made this deal because they don't have to maybe pay as much for the NFL licensing rights, because those come up every few years and they're very pricey. Especially for like Monday Night Football and things like that. Yeah, it's unprecedented. I don't really know. I mean, it'll be interesting if there is monopoly issues. Like, do other networks bring this up and say this is like, you're obviously favoring one network over the other. So it could have some ramifications down the road for it, for sure.
Yeah, because I remember recently, and Seymour, I forgot the name of the service that they were going to do. I think they've canceled it since, but
That's
Venue?
right. Oh, there's another one that they announced. There was
Ven-
Fubo.
Fubo or Venmo or something,
It was
right?
Fubo. And, no, it was Venue.
Yeah,
And
Venue.
then the new one, because of the lawsuit, is this Fubo thing, which I don't know what that means for that, because that was also a sports thing as well.
Yeah, Fubo is just basically going to be Hulu Live, and Disney doesn't want to take care of it, so they're selling it off, essentially. So they're going to spin it off
with Fubo TV.
Well, they're going to merge together, and
That's
it's
right,
going to be a separate company.
That's right.
And Disney doesn't have to do anything. Fubo is in charge of it. Kind of like what they did with Star India, where they let Reliance Industry buy Star India, and now they don't have to focus on anything because they don't have to put any capital in it. They do all the work.
Okay. Interesting. Well, what are your thoughts on this deal overall, Seymour?
I think it's business-wise, I think it's great. I think it's great for Disney because they're going to bring down costs, because that's the one thing that Disney has a problem that can't compete with big tech is cost. So they're like, we'll give you an equity in ESPN. And ESPN is a big brand for sports. And they do a lot of things with ESPN. Even sports betting is ESPN. And people forget that, oh, Disney does sports betting? Yeah. But they don't do it itself. They have Penn Entertainment doing it, right? They create their own app. But they made a deal, and it's ESPN Bet now, and you can do sports betting. But now integrated with ESPN new streaming service, it's great because they don't have to pay. That's where it comes down to. Big tech can spend billions of dollars on live sports. Disney can't compete with that. They can take a loss for like 10 years in the future just to kill the competition. I believe this is great for Disney. And going forward, though, like with the other companies, funny enough, I actually believe that ESPN would be the Netflix of sports.
Oh, okay.
Because you're seeing like companies like Warner Brothers license their sports TV shows, like Inside the NBA show with Shaq and them. That used to be for TNT, but now it's going to be on ESPN exclusively, even though that's a Warner Brothers show that's for sports, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's being licensed to ESPN. And Bob Iger said they're not afraid to get other licenses from other companies to come in if they have license to their shows to bring on to ESPN. So I feel like what's happening is, since the venue deal didn't go through, the new central hub is now ESPN, and Disney is trying to make it the Netflix of sports. That's what it feels like, especially now because they're also getting WWE. They just made a deal saying we're getting all the pay-per-view, all the top tier pay-per-view shows from WWE, and it's just one up to Netflix, because Netflix says Monday Night Raw, but it's like, oh no, you don't get any of the good stuff actually.
That's wild. I did not know about the WWE stuff. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, they kind of announced that today. And then Iger even said they're looking, you may have talked about this, Iger even said they're looking at bringing more sports into it as well, like licensing deals, which would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, Seymour, you touched upon that a little bit.
Yeah,
Seymour was saying that it kind of, ESPN kind of reminds him a little bit of like Netflix, like how they're going to kind of bring in these licensing deals and kind of have this aggregator of all this sports stuff, which is interesting, you know.
And like I said, if linear TV is dying off, which it is, the bright spot of all of it is live sports, and Disney knows this. And I think the deal with the NFL, and again, you could see this now. I don't know if they try to make another deal with, say, the NBA. I think you'd get into this monopoly stuff, because I do wonder if you're going to see some major pushback from these networks. That also, I mean, if you're CBS and you just paid, I don't know how much the licensing deals that they paid the NFL, but you're paying billions of dollars to show these games and to get Super Bowls and things. If you're negotiating with another company that the NFL has an ownership in, and they don't, I mean, then you're talking about that. It gets kind of hairy about how negotiations could go. But I don't know if it falls under monopoly, but from Disney's perspective, it's probably a very solid win. And they get the gambling aspect in the fantasy football, which they're going to combine in. ESPN already has fantasy football, so they're going to probably combine NFLs with the ESPN one. And Red Zone is massive. I don't know if you ever watch Red Zone. It's great. Like you just see all the stuff right before they score touchdowns. It's like the best way to watch football games.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, it's a good deal. It's a good deal. Yeah, I'm curious about the monopoly stuff. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of ground rules in regards to, like you were saying, Jared, with these negotiations. There has to be some kind of way to make it more fair.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking. You got what, CBS, Fox, and well, even Amazon. And I wonder too if Disney made this deal because of you got Amazon, you got Twitter getting involved, showing NFL games now. The prices of those and those tech companies like Amazon's got endless pockets. They can pay for that stuff. I wonder. Part of me wonders if they made the deal to not have to put out as much cash to pay for these licensing deals and instead give up an equity stake that also gives you this partnership with the NFL. So it's like it saves them money, but also gives them this leverage in that market to do more live sports as well.
Yeah. It seemed you touched upon that too with the big tech stuff. This kind of staves them off a little bit.
Yeah, everything you just said, I said when you were gone.
My bad. I had to tell my kids good night. I apologize.
No worries.
We're on the same wavelength, though, Seymour.
Exactly. But that is a good point. That is a good point. Big tech is a big issue for Hollywood in general.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, the whole Paramount thing. I think was it Amazon who was interested in that, and then eventually it was Skydance who kind of got it or something. But
I think isn't Skydance doesn't it have an offshoot from Amazon, or am I wrong about that?
I don't believe it is. Seymour,
Okay.
Are they connected?
I think it's MGM.
Okay. MGM. Okay. MGM. So it's kind of interesting how like these Hollywood studios are trying to and Seymour, you mentioned this on a show like 6 months ago, where the Hollywood studios would rather merge with each other than get bought out by these big, Amazons and stuff like that.
And Hollywood has a problem. I mean, right now you got Amazon, even got Apple. These are like vanity projects for these. Amazon, like for what they're spending on movies, like at any moment they just decide they don't want to do it anymore. They could pull their money out, and Hollywood would be in a bad spot if they did that. Yeah. And so I'm sure Disney looks at that, and not only in the movie entertainment side, but now you got them encroaching on the sports side. So part of this could be Disney also trying to, keep out the competition a lot by kind of leveraging some more of these deals. But yeah, I was the one that was really interesting, the WWE part, because I didn't hear anything about that until this morning. But that I think they said that was like $300 some odd million per year is what they were estimating is what the WWE deal would bring in. So that's it's not incredible. As big as the NFL, but it's still, a good chunk of change.
Yeah, that's wild. Seymour, any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Oh, yeah, just one thing. I think they announced that when they launch it, I think August 22nd, it's going to be $29.99 a month. But then they're like, we're going to introduce a 1-year tier where you can subscribe for at least 1 year, Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN for $29.99. So that's not bad. Yeah. If you're a sports fan, sports fans pay for their entertainment. So yeah, if you're already a sports fan, this is good. This is good.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing too. Bob Chapek used to get a lot of shit from the fandom, and even just Hollywood in general, and even everywhere. He was getting it from everywhere.
I feel like he got it from his wife too. Nobody just likes that guy. He's just everybody.
I think so. I think definitely, absolutely. But to his credit, right, flaws and all, to his credit, a lot of the stuff, not all of it, but a lot of it that he implemented on his watch, like the betting, that Bob Iger was against when he didn't come back. But Bob Iger's like, no, Disney shouldn't do that. And then Bob Iger comes back and he's like, well, maybe we should, So to Chapek's credit, some of the stuff that we're seeing, the fruits that we're kind of enjoying now, were kind of set up by Chapek,
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, you got to think too. Iger, I made this point. Iger never really left. He was still the chairman of the board. Yeah. Chapek reported to the board and to Iger. So a lot of the things Chapek was doing, in many ways, were things Iger wanted. And the gambling's interesting because, you would say historically to make any sense for Disney, but you've seen gambling become much more adopted. Even the pro sports leagues now have integrated with gambling. And I think you're just going to see more of that. So, I'm sure they looked at how much it's been accepted now as well. And that's a lot of money you can make, especially with the NFL one. That includes the gambling as well, which they already have a deal, ESPN licensing for another gambling app as well. So they're kind of getting, in on the gambling on a couple different fronts.
Yeah, absolutely. Jared, Mr. Seymour.
One more thing. All right, just one more thing I wanted
Sure,
to say
sure.
that I want to give props to Disney for getting. I know it's not big as the NFL, but for getting WWE when Netflix was supposed to take that
Sure.
because like Dana White, the company that owns WWE and UFC, it's TKO, right? And
Yep, yep.
there was like rumors that they were just going to sign up with Netflix and take all the licensing deals, but then Disney came in and just took all the prime shows from them, and that's pretty amazing because going forward, I can see ESPN doing a lot more of that. There was rumors that they were going to do UFC for Netflix, but now it's like maybe they will go on ESPN now.
Well, let me ask you a question, Seymour. You're right. I agree with you 100%. Who could we kind of like? Would this be a Dana Walden sort of thing? Like, who do you think
This is not going to be Josh.
Definitely not
Oh,
Josh. No, it's definitely not Josh. So, because I know Dana does general entertainment and stuff. Would this fall under her purview? So, would this be like a win for her?
No, they have a guy who's I forget his name that's in charge of ESPN already.
Well, Jimmy Pitaro, I think, is one that kind of took credit for this today.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was considered to be the CEO for Disney for a while. Not anymore, but
Yeah, he said himself he's not going to be CEO. I think he kind of took himself out of the running.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, that would have been kind of weird, right? Like a sports guy. I mean, he might have been great. You never know, but it's just kind of weird, you know.
Well, and ESPN's so strange because like they've changed a lot in just their approach even the past 5 years. And so yeah, it's a different network than it was even 10 years ago from the way it operates. It's like the programming and stuff like that. So I'm very curious. The WWE is interesting because you do wonder as well. I mean, does Disney have any say in the content? Because that's going to be weird. Wrestling fans are not going to like that. I can tell you that much right now. I used to watch wrestling like when I was like 17, and I haven't watched it really since then, but I'm aware of some of the stuff. But they do some kind of wild stuff on those pay-per-views sometimes. But yeah, if they're able to get like UFC, I mean, if Disney takes the approach that they're going to become a sports hub and they have the assets and the ability to do it, it's a pretty slick move. As linear TV falls off and you're able to outbid some of these bigger companies, it's not a bad move. It's pretty smart.
Yeah. Interesting stuff happening. Interesting earnings call today. Mr. Seymour Duck, Jared, I want to thank you guys for joining today. Always a good time talking to you, gentlemen. Jared, I will start with you, sir. Where can everybody find you on social media?
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a good time hanging out with you guys, and I'm glad me and Seymour are on the same page and the wavelength here when it comes to finances. Because sometimes I'm hit and miss, but I'm glad I'm hitting maybe a little bit. Yeah, you can find me at Captain Magic everywhere, social media and on YouTube, Captain Magic. And then if you want some in park, Disney World, Universal Studios tips and all that stuff, you can check out the Captain Magic podcast. That's at CTM Podcast on YouTube as well. So
there he is. Check him out. All platforms. Mr. Seymour Duck. Always a pleasure having you on, sir. I hope you feel better. Get well. Drink your bone broth and your chicken soup, and
bone broth is so good when you're sick.
Take your vitamins and say your prayers, brother.
I put a little bit of hot sauce in my bone broth, and it's so good.
Oh, that's awesome. That kind of reminds me of ever have like Vietnamese pho? Like you can throw some like sriracha in there, and that's pretty good when you're sick too. So, but anyway, I hope you feel better, brother. But where can everybody find you on social media?
No, thank you. Yeah, you can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck.
Well, there he is. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG 55. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we talked about today in regards to the earnings, the theme parks, ESPN, major news with that, Hulu being finally integrated into Disney Plus. We would love to hear from you. And until the next time, see you.
Don't forget to subscribe to OG 55 and become a member today.